This is Trend Following Radio, where great thinking comes alive. Nobel Prize winners, legendary traders, best-selling authors, and the pros that know what drive us irrational human beings. I am your host, MICHAEL COVEL. Not filtered, raw, honest. That's my passion. I love stories like the one that you're going to hear today from two guys, Daehee Park and JT Marino. They both started a company a few years ago called Tuft and Needle, a mattress company. Two young tech guys that looked at the mattress industry, this old line, stodgy industry that we all have to deal with and we all hate dealing with. These two guys, tech background in hand, looked at the industry and said, how can we hack this? How can we do it better? Here's their story. I hope you enjoy this conversation with Daehee Park and JT Marino.
The very first site we had, we didn't even have the product yet. We bought a photo stock image of a mattress. We described what the mattress would be like. We described what the service would be like. We had put it up, and I focused more on building the site, and the credit card processing. You literally could put your credit card number in. You literally would be charged. And Daehee did a little bit of advertising, and we made a sale within 15 minutes. Of course, it was a point of celebration, but at the same time, we had to apologize to that first person, give them their money back, let them know that we're back ordered. We shut the site down, and that's really when we got to work.
It's probably important to note, there's a couple of reasons why we did that. One was JT and I had just left the Silicon Valley, VC funded world and wanted to start a bootstrap company. We didn't have a lot of money to begin with. We put together, $3,000 of my money, $3,000 of JT's money into a business bank account. Really, we wanted to see how we could bootstrap this thing. So there was that. Around that time, we had read books like, Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week, The Lean Startup. So we were really trying to figure out the most pragmatic way to build the MVP and, start our business. That's just how we got started. And that's why we took that approach.
Let's jump back. So we got two software engineers, two programmers. What do we got? Yes?
Yep. Yeah. We were both at a software startup in Silicon Valley.
You're not having fun. You're trying to figure out solutions where there is no problem. I mean, what do you guys, something like that?
It's exactly it. I mean, that's that's almost exactly the line I use all the time, which is that it was as more of a solution searching for a problem. As some people say, like entrepreneurs playing house. We were a part of a typical startup that has an idea, and you've got founders, and they pitch it to investors, they raise money, sort of following or chasing stars. But as opposed to sort of starting with a problem of their own. And really we had come to a point where, working 60 to 90 hours a week on something that we didn't necessarily believe in ourselves was taxing. You sort of feel like, at least myself, I feel like every hour that I'm putting on this thing is sort of like an hour of my soul sort of being thrown away. We just wanted to work on something a little bit more, certainly more important.
Your employees at the time. So an employee mindset is a very, very, very different mindset than an entrepreneur. So at some stage of the game, something happens, or were you always just budding entrepreneurs hiding as employees ready to break out?
Yeah, so both JT and I, early on, we dabbled with entrepreneurship. For me, my first quote unquote business started when I was in, middle school, 8th grade, when I opened up an e-commerce jewelry store. It was just something that, web design had always been, a hobby of mine, just kind of growing up, dabbling in like GeoCities and such. Yeah, early on in grade school, opened up a, e-commerce store with PayPal and selling silver and gold plated jewelry. And then JT, you yourself had some experience early on, right? I think you had like a cake business or something.
Yeah, in high school, I baked baked and sold cakes, sort of very different from software. It was just sort of a little, I can't exactly remember how I got into it, but yeah, that was my first experience in entrepreneurship.
And then, how we actually met was, at Penn State, a professor who, teaches entrepreneurship in the engineering school there, connected us because we had both, been seeking other like-minded entrepreneurs, wasn't really finding anyone we could connect with at the clubs and at these like networking events, because as you commonly see, a lot of these, even here in Phoenix, if I go to an entrepreneurship meetup, there's a lot of people who are talking about business, but not really taking action on it. They just like to, talk about what kind of idea they have, meeting people that way. So JT and I were like actively just like, working and grinding on, ideas, or like actually putting them into tangible form. There weren't that many people who were doing that at our school. I guess I asked the professor that question, do you know anyone who's doing something similar? And JT did the same. Yeah, she connected us. That's how we got connected. Because in college, again, that's when I was working on a variety of online just business models, and same with JT. And his background was deep into computer science. Mine was more on the monetization and marketing side. Yeah, we would actually sit side by side once we had met, and he would teach me how to program, and I would share marketing strategy ideas. Yeah, we would work together. When we were departing school, we were just talking about how it would be great one day if we worked together, but yeah, we kind of like put a hold on that and went our separate ways. And then ended up meeting back together in Silicon Valley. JT had joined that startup first and then recruited me on.
So I still recall, and I think you guys are going to love this, I still recall my first 2 mattress purchases. So the first was a Stearns and Foster's, or Foster, however it's pronounced, and I know it was around $3,000. It took like 4 people to move. I still have it. I could, drop it from a balcony and probably kill 3 people. And it worked out okay. But once you got it, you realize if it wasn't perfect, there was no sending it back. That's for sure. It was a beast to move around. I remember the second one though, I was a little more cautious, and I think it was only around $2,400. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, I didn't have a chance on that first one to really take it home and use it. And so I made sure to kind of see, okay, what's the policy here? And they had a big thing of like, take it home for 30 days. If you don't like it, we'll come back and get it. Well, they were good about that. They did. But I tell you what, they were like, once they did that one time and I changed it for something a little bit firmer, they were like, it was, we're never going to do this again. This is the only time this is going to happen. And you started to feel like, okay, what did I do wrong? I just gave you $2,300. So that's my mattress buying experiences. And I have a sneaky suspicion that those types of experiences are common across the landscape. And why don't you tell your experience? Because I have a feeling it's about the same thing.
Yeah, they definitely are. The whole idea for us starting this company was, and we wanted to solve one of our own problems. And around that time I had gotten married. I went shopping for a mattress, my first one. Up until that point I had hand-me-downs. And so starting my family from scratch, new apartment, needed to buy furniture, using some of the wedding money for each item, and having to buy a mattress. And especially in the type of role that I was in, a knowledge worker and programming, rest is extremely important. I wanted to get the best mattress that I could afford. The shopping experience was basically a nightmare. And there's just, the list just goes on and on. Especially for, I care a lot about experience. I care a lot about product. I can see through a lot of the tactics that are being used on me, and just everything seemed really odd. And then when we finally decided on the mattress, and when we finally got it, we didn't like it. And then when we tried to do a return, there was so much friction and so many hoops to jump through, we just decided to keep it. And so, yeah, it really was based off of a personal experience. Even though it's such a huge difference between software and mattress, we were curious about it. Like, what could this be? I shared my experience with Daehee. He had had similar experiences. What we ended up doing, we took a legal pad and we just wrote down everything we hated about shopping for a mattress and everything we hated about a mattress itself. And the whole page was filled of all these issues and problems. It was sort of frustrating around it. And it's, drawing a line down the center of the page and then writing down the solution on the other end. It wasn't that difficult. It really wasn't. A lot of choices. Well, what if we just had one? All these discounts and markups. What if it was just a fair price? And then, and so on and so forth. And sort of, like you said, other people having this experience, reminds me when we were at this, the software startup before starting Tuft and Needle, and I went to Thanksgiving on my wife's side, and all her family members, meeting me a lot for the first time, asking me what I did. I'd begin explaining, what the software, the product was, and they say it's a red flag when it's difficult to explain the product. And it really was, when you lose people, and you sort of almost know that you're going to lose them. Now, after having started Tuft and Needle, and somebody going back to Thanksgiving again, and somebody says, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, we're in the mattress industry." And they're like, "Interesting." And they ask a lot of questions, and now all of a sudden, I see a big difference between that solution searching for a problem versus a solution that actually solves a real problem and one that resonates with literally young adults all the way up to grandparents, and they're all interested and they're all curious and they want to know, because people have experienced so much pain around shopping for mattresses, and most people don't like the mattresses they actually sleep on.
It's funny that you bring up, for your first and second mattress, just the price you paid for it, because when I remember my first mattress that I bought after college, it's just, I don't even know the brand. It's just the price I paid for it, and it's the discount that I got. It was a $3,000 mattress that I bought for $1,500. And when most of the people I ask, it's the same answer, where they don't really remember. It's like some S brand, and they're like, "Yeah, I got a really great deal." It was like a $5,000 mattress, and I bought it for, $2,000 or something along those lines. There was a lack of, brand, love that we saw. So yeah, early on, JT and I talked about, we want to create a mattress brand that people love to talk about and they, love to sleep on. Just that was, early on, just one of the things that we're focused on.
Okay, two guys that have zero mattress experience other than what I just described, which are bad personal experiences. So what becomes some of those first steps? Because I think not only are there people going to be listening that say, wow, this is a really interesting story about mattresses. We all care about mattresses. But then there's going to be the entrepreneur listening that says, my gosh, two guys that have no mattress experience. They clearly do now. They clearly have success with it now. But what was the first step? What was the first pivot? What did you do once you say, I want to be in the mattress business?
The first step was building out that list of pains. The second thing was trying to figure out, first off, what is a mattress? As far as engineering, going back to first principles, what's the science that matters? What are the root problems that matter, and working backwards from that? We took my mattress apart, that I had bought. I spent $3,500 on a mattress. We took it apart. We figured out what all of the different components were. It's very difficult to find any manufacturing information online. Now it's definitely easier. There's a big trend. We started this massive trend, this big turnover in the industry. But at the time, there were only a few manufacturers online. We had to navigate essentially the social network of manufacturers and suppliers with just a phone and a notepad. And you start with one, you start asking, you call them up, you explain, okay, we want to design a mattress. We're interested in potentially having you manufacture for us. And then just asking questions. What is this component? What is that component? Some people were interested in helping you. Some people would hang up on you. And once in a while, you'd find someone who would just answer everything you ask. And it was very helpful, especially when you begin to describe what this, what your objective is. And and it sort of resonates with them. So what we, from starting with the pains and then figuring out what the components were, the next step was, well, what would it cost to start? Are there manufacturers? Would they even talk with us? Would they even, give us a shot? we began to break down the mattress I bought. I spent $3,500 on what would each component cost, and we had discovered that it would cost about $300 to manufacture, which was a jaw-dropping moment for us, and was the last thing on our list that we wrote down with triple asterisks. Then the next thing we did was we built that site. We got a photostock image of a mattress. We put it online just to see if we can make a sale. We made a sale in 15 minutes. That was the moment we're like, okay, this is, it definitely took more time than the 15 minutes from the time that we started the
That'd be funny.
Yeah, the ad campaign. It was weeks of work. And then at that moment, that's when we started digging in. So now we understood what the components were. Then we began doing research. So I rented a car and I drove to a ton of manufacturers. Like, going and meeting somebody in person is a huge difference, from calling them. Somebody who would hang up on you when you knock on their door, it's a different story. They see that you're a real person. They have a bit more empathy for you. It gives us a chance to explain exactly like what we're shooting for. I realize like we're small and you would have to sort of give us a chance. But when you talk to somebody face to face, it's a totally different story. And so from there, it's like, okay, who are the partners we would look for? Where do we have things made? What are all the materials available to us? And then we begin prototyping. And typically, even just prototyping can be very costly because you have to have the materials cut and prepared for you and shipped to you. We had to negotiate a lot because we didn't really have much to start with. So asking for favors and getting suppliers to help us. And the funny thing is that the suppliers that helped us are the ones we're still working with, and the ones that sort of slammed the door in our face and just thought it was just a joke. Now they're coming back, but they sort of disqualified themselves, and we know what value they see. They don't care as much about the mission and the overall objective as much as they do the volume of business and how you affect their bottom line.
Let me interject here and also remind the audience, I'm guessing at this time, this is, as you've mentioned already, but this is 100% bootstrapped. It's not like you guys are running around on a Learjet with a huge pile of venture capital to play games. I mean, you guys are this is scraping by at this time, right? This isn't like two rich kids out there just wandering around on Easy Street, is it?
Daehee and I, we both we calculated about 4 months. And it wasn't just the money, that $6,000 we put in the bank, but it was also the money that we could float ourselves, and live off of savings. I lived in Palo Alto at the time. It's very expensive to live there. Yeah. So we definitely had a fire under our ass, and we had to work really hard. We had to move very quickly.
Let me ask one big picture question about the mattress industry. I'm imagining, and you guys have gone down the path, so you're going to know and you're going to tell me, but I'm imagining the mattress industry is like OPEC. It's an oligopoly. I mean, I imagine that there's all these brands are in concert together to keep this whole mattress system together, where everyone knows there's a mattress store or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 in their local community, and everyone knows about these high prices, and everyone knows that you walk in. Some of the worst salespeople in the world that you could ever imagine are in mattress shops. I mean, it's worse than used cars, it's terrible. And you walk in and you just know you're a mark. I mean, they're like putting a dot on your forehead and they're gonna work you. Why don't you talk about the industry some?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it has worked, for decades, right? Because there's this, greed and complacency that exists because, all the players were working in cooperation. No one was stepping out of line, or if they were, it was just a very isolated incident. But now with obviously online shopping, one brand can communicate to, millions of people very easily. It's a much different game now. Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, when we were starting, people would joke like, once you get in, it's a very small industry. It's like an old boys club. We've learned that is definitely the case, and I'm sure there's other industries, old industries, traditional industries like this as well. But yeah, it's very interesting to see. When you go to these conferences, there are people who work for companies that have just floated around and worked at all the other ones, and they're constantly just shifting around. There's not much, I would say, like new blood being introduced. Now things are changing because there's tons of, companies like us springing up. Now I think we're counting over 50 copycats that are taking the same approach. So now it's a little bit of a different story. Sales rep at company A will have worked at, a bunch of other of the same similar type of companies, and a lot of not many new ideas being introduced.
Yeah. And a lot of the ownership and who's in control is private equity. So there's a lot of similar hands. Yeah. And even like from a diversity standpoint, like I was just at, an industry conference. You just look around and it's all older white men. There's very few women. There's very few other sort of diversity. It's just the weirdest thing I've ever seen. It's just super bizarre. And it's still like after several years of being in the industry, there's still things you discover that's just super odd.
One of the rules of thumbs, one of the heuristics we could use, if a mature industry has only older white guys in the room, the potential for disruption is probably high.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
Talk about though your motivation for the disruption, because I mean, you guys. I mean, look, young guys, you're looking at this, and how old are you guys?
I'm 27.
I'm 30.
Yep.
So you're talking about the lean startup, you talk about Tim Ferriss, you've got in your blood the thinking of disruption. How quickly did you know though? Was it almost immediately when you started writing down the list of pain points? How quickly did you know, wow, we can disrupt this?
For me, I wouldn't have been able to define disruption. I didn't have that business, education, when we had just started our company. So this was definitely something we had discovered. There was no model that we were really following. There weren't any other companies doing what we were doing. So we didn't really know it would work. Within the first year, we started getting traction. It took about a year. By the end of our first year. We started in June. Our first sale was in June of 2012. October of 2012 is when we launched Tuft and Needle, the brand. All of 2013 was our first January to December year. It definitely took about a year to, when you're starting with zero marketing and zero budget, like it definitely happens slow, but then, customers start talking about it and the buzz starts getting out there. And then 2014, things start to really pick up, and 2015 really pick up. And we were just following our nose. We hear a customer complain and then we fix it. And then we hear another complaint and then we fix it. And then the next complaint surfaces. So every time we would get a complaint about the product or about the service or anything, we would fix it, and then another complaint would come. And so that's just how we've gone along over time. And sort of the bar is set so low that we're starting to raise the standards, and that becomes disruptive. We're literally disrupting on three different, classical, definition disruption, technology, process, and price. We're disrupting on all three in a very hard way. And it's just, honestly, still the majority of our growth is organic. It's over 70%. Our customers are just doing it for us. We're staying focused on the service and the product. And we're always trying to figure out ways to raise the bar. It's obviously getting harder as we've implemented a lot of the fixes. We then discover, some of the more challenging problems that has never been tackled before. But we're putting a lot of, energy towards those things now.
Just to set some, economic context on what JT just said. So our first full year in business, 2013, that was our, $1 million, in net revenue. And then the following year, 2014, we did $9 million. That's when we had how many employees? 13 employees. And then this, most recent year, 2014, we finished year with $40 million.
2015.
Oh, sorry, 2015. We did $40 million in net revenue. As of now, we have, 100 employees. We're set to do $150 million in revenue this year. Since the beginning, and what's been fueling all this growth, a big part of it, I would say, is just, the emotion behind the brand, where since the beginning, we were just upset with the industry, right? We started as customers and we wanted to fix it. And the reason why we were approached, after our first full year in business, we started getting phone calls from venture capitalists. And now, and more recently, it's more like, growth equity. We didn't want to take outside money because we still wanted to achieve our vision for fixing the industry. And we just wanted to be extra careful because, as JT mentioned earlier, this industry partially was, I would say, ruined by outside investors coming in, taking brands and then trying to squeeze margin out of them so that they're more motivated. Now these, mattress companies are more motivated by the bottom line than what's right for the customer. We want to see this experiment to the end, which is, really making Tuft and Needle a household brand name so that people know that they have a good mattress company that they can buy from. That's where we're headed today.
Let me take you back in time a little bit, because there was something that JT was talking about a few minutes ago that I want to dig back on, which is the taking your $3,500 mattress and cutting it open with a chainsaw to find out what's inside. Now, so that was a typical mattress, I'm guessing. But why don't we talk about, and why don't you lead the audience through what happened? Because you eventually settled on a memory foam type mattress, and there's been many, correct me if I'm wrong, and there's been many innovations there and many different types of thinking, for example, like mattress thickness. And of course, one of the great things that you've been able to do to kind of hack into this space, you guys have not started with stores, so you had to deliver mattresses. Why don't you talk about the idea of going towards the memory foam, the thickness of the mattress, and the delivery component? Those are all really fascinating things that you guys learned going down the path.
Our mattress is not memory foam. It's actually a new kind of foam. The easiest way to describe it is it's an evolutionary development beyond memory foam. Is with that aside, one of the things that's really unique.
Go down that direction though, if you want to talk about that some, because look, all I'm thinking of is I know my Tempur-Pedic knowledge. So correct me.
Sure. Okay. There is no industry name for it, and so we call it Tuft and Needle adaptive foam because it's not something that's been adopted yet by the whole industry, and there's various patents and things that gives us some exclusivity for a period of time with it. But yeah, so what happened was, our first mattress we developed was actually 5 inches tall. And the reason why we went with us Americans would say is thin, was because that's, based on all of the data and all of the feedback, that's all we found that you really needed. Over time, we had started getting complaints like as far as support and all that's really all you need. But for headboards are a little higher, so pillows are falling behind the headboards, or larger people were not as comfortable. So we ended up doubling the size and transitioning to 10 inches tall. It's with just the same approach. We're very iterative with the product, almost treating it like software. We hear feedback and then we make improvements. One of the things is that we hit a roadblock with the available materials that was available from manufacturers and suppliers, and it just seemed like to be no way around it. So we approached a lab, and we collaborated with them on a new design and a new material from the chemistry, from the raw materials, the chemicals that are actually developed and refined, that are then shipped to the manufacturer, and we have a new kind of foam. Our product is very different from that standpoint. The primary, in a nutshell, the overall goal of it was to be able to simplify the mattress, to reduce the number of layers. The more layers you add, the more glue you add, and layers are generally used to either manipulate the feel or try to replicate a certain kind of feel or comfort. It's also used a lot as a marketing gimmick. The more layers, the better. Sort of like the more blades in a razor, the better. But that doesn't actually work in a mattress. It's almost completely false. The benefit of this foam is that it has really great pressure relief, but also really good support, sort of mixed into one. You literally could make a mattress with just this one material without any other layers. Anyway, so that's that. With the foam aside, the other thing that we do is that we compress it and we roll it into a small box, and we're able to ship it all over the U.S. I mean, this is obviously very, very convenient for being able to move around as an individual. I mean, it's recommended that you move it around with somebody to help you, but getting it up the stairs and getting it around the corner, and it's just a lot more convenient. It's a lot easier to ship. You can ship via UPS or FedEx. As far as the returns, there's really no way for the customer to recompress it, but we've built a network of donation sites in just about every zip code in the United States for donations. And we've built those relationships since the very beginning. That's a whole nother story, and how we were able to get a lot of these donation companies to be open to going and picking up some of these mattresses, but all of our returns, well, the majority of all of our returns are actually donated. But yeah, so that's something that's fairly unique. We're able to ship to people via your carrier right to your door.
It's a really interesting, just the whole process of going down it. So many people say, what do I do? What's my passion? I mean, you guys did not think of yourselves as 21-year-old guys in college thinking to yourself, I want to be mattress experts. There's nothing sexy there. Where's my passion there? I mean, I can't tell you how many people, and I'm sure you guys bump into them too, how many people wander the planet. I must find my passion. When I find my passion, I will start. Just start.
Yeah, well, I would tell you that we definitely weren't passionate about mattress companies, and we weren't kids like thinking we were going to be mattress guys. We were passionate about our problem. Is sort of a moral obligation to solve it. Yeah, I mean, there were definitely times where, especially that first year, when it was very even difficult to measure growth. Some days you might sell 5 or 10, some days you might sell 0, and like, are we growing? Are we not? It's much easier to see now. We have history, year-over-year growth, and seasonality, and all those things. I've certainly found passion with what started with my own problem, but now seeing happy customers and essentially blowing people's minds. So, when a customer writes in and they can't believe the product, they love their product, or they're recommending to friends, it's super empowering. Success has been hugely motivating for me, and success being, fixing people's problems and sort of saving them from the nightmare of having to shop for a mattress. This is something we're good at, and I'm not a really big believer in follow your passion. I'm a big believer in doing what you're good at and sort of finding happiness and passion in other ways.
This passion is shared by obviously all of our employees who now, Tuft and Needle is a hot startup to work at in Phoenix. And it's been an incredible, just for recruiting over here. But none of our employees here have ever worked at a mattress company, or would just same as JT and I would have ever dreamt of, otherwise working at a mattress company. So yeah, we're all here because we believe in, building a good business our own way. So we do a lot of experimentation, whether it's customer facing, like you see, at the surface level, to internally, just trying different things to create an amazing culture, to create a company that we would have wanted to work for ourselves.
One thing that I've noticed in the last bunch of years, I've met a lot of entrepreneurs that are selling on Amazon, from vitamins to you name it. I've met quite a few guys, Americans, for example, that are based in Asia, they're having products manufactured in Asia, selling them on Amazon. I've met a guy recently, I've known him for a couple of years now. He actually just sold his firm, and he specialized in selling tracking software for those people that sell products on Amazon, for people to kind of really optimize their selling on Amazon. Today, Amazon is a big deal to you today. Even when you first started, it was more of the website. But today, Amazon is a big factor in your success, isn't it?
I would say fundamental or very helpful for our credibility very early on. Because we didn't have the VC funding for all the press hits, right? Where, people are, press outlets are vouching for us because we raised, say X million dollars, in other people's money. It was important in that sense. And as of today, Amazon is a very small share of our revenue. We intend to keep it that way. It's significant in terms of dollar volume. I would say it's, 10 to 20% of our revenue, but we never, would want Amazon to be, a majority of our revenue, because we believe in, the direct experience. A big differentiator is not just the product. It's, like the service and education that we provide to customers. That's a big part of, what we do.
How do you reach people? What's the best way to reach people for you right now? How do you find the new clients?
Right now, the majority, it's about 70% of all of our new customers are actually by other customers recommending it to their friends. As far as advertising, we've begun experimenting with out of home, like radio or billboards, television. The majority of the advertising is still online in sort of the traditional online channels like Google.
70% word of mouth. How have you guys helped to organize promulgate, push that? Because that's pretty amazing. You guys are having phenomenal growth already. And then you're saying 70% is word of mouth.
We don't actively push it. I would say it's a testament to a lot of the work that we did up front with the product development, and we still do, and the service and keeping up with the service. As an example, like response rate is a big deal, and how fast you get back to your customers. We released another product, and we do have other products. We've had other products designed and developed and completed for a while now. But the fear is, if we release a new product, what happens to our response rates? What happens to the high standard of customer support that we provide, which would impact our customers' happiness, which impacts like the likelihood that they would refer to a friend. So we care a lot about maintaining the standard and just keeping up with that as we continue to scale our business. We don't push our customers, with a referral program, or
we should know that we did have one.
Yeah,
very successful viral.
Yeah, so we were, and as far as everything we've found, we are the first mattress company to have a double-sided referral program. It was an idea we had to throw fuel on that organic growth. It worked. It worked really well. But we started to realize, it was attracting a different kind of customer. Not all of the customers are this way, but a larger percentage of a customer that we didn't really think was a good fit for us. Customers that were shopping purely on price as opposed to values or product function, things like that. Customers that were very, very high maintenance. And secondly, we realized that it was more of a marketing tactic or sort of a gimmick, which is very opposite of like the direction we've been taking with our company this whole time. So we ended up ending that program. We wrote a fairly in-depth article on why we did that. We started it and then we ended it. And it's funny because the day we ended it, coincidentally, a competitor of ours launched theirs that day, and it was so perfect because it's such a great contrast in our companies and what we stand for. So we have experimented with ways to boost that organic growth. We just haven't needed to do it. It continues to be of the majority of all of our growth. And we do it through the level of service and the product quality and product function, service, all of those, policies, all of those different aspects that people really care about.
A lot of people will read, I do, I'll read Seth Godin's blog, and Seth Godin's always talking about creating art. And I don't think people necessarily know what art means, but it's this constant, continuous improvement. And I'm sure in many ways, you guys are still motivated, not necessarily by only the customer feedback. I know customer feedback is very important, but you probably sit around, since you're not marketing centric, marketing gimmicky guys, you're sitting around constantly trying to figure out how can you improve the art.
Yeah, we definitely do. And a lot of, the customer feedback, it's difficult to take at face value. If you took all the feedback and suggestions that people give you, you'd end up with a Frankenstein of a thing. It's really diving, we hear a complaint. We try to dive down to the root problems. We definitely have a process, where we challenge our assumptions, rethink, and sometimes some of our ideas are crazy. We definitely have a core group who's trained to test and practice and build things. There are literally products that we've designed, and I'm sure the majority of the team may scratch their head and sort of wonder why we did that. But we don't want to limit ourselves, and we don't want to slam the door shut in ways, because sometimes taking a crazy idea down a particular path sort of opens a door in another way that ties right back to the product in some way.
A big practice of art for us as a company has been simplification. From our policies to the product itself, we've been constantly trying to iterate on how we can simplify things to make it easier to understand, especially in an industry where there's just so much complexity and confusion and intentionally being a black box, as we've been talking about.
One last question for you guys, and this is coming from my experience being in Asia for the last three going on 4 years now. Talk about the Asian market, because for me, Sleeping in Asia can often be very different, very not used to the very thick beds. And as I'm sitting here listening to you guys and looking at your product and everything, and I'm thinking, my gosh, for parts of the world where people are used to not having the big thick mattresses, where space is often a premium, I really start to wonder how you guys will do in Asia. I would think pretty well. Have you started to go outside the country yet?
After our first year of business, we've gotten inquiries from other, countries, especially Western Europe and East Asia. We've been really focused on just doing one thing at a time. We're still only in the US.
Come on, you can't sleep. You've got a whole other side of the world to deal with. You can't, what's this? I mean, it must drive you crazy though, because I know deep down, you can say that to me, but I know deep down you want to find out how it will do in other parts of the world.
We certainly are eager to figure that out. But right now it's already fairly challenging keeping up with the growth that we have now. Just as an example, like we were talking about customer support before, at one point when we doubled in size, and our customer support might be 5 people, going and hiring another 5 people at that time seemed challenging. Now, we have 50 people, and if we double in size, hiring another 50 people overnight is extremely challenging. Just keeping up with the standards that we have and the amount of growth we have here is very challenging. So at some point, there will be a moment where we realize that it would make sense for us to begin exploring, but it's certainly something that's we're eager about.
Yeah, and also we understand, especially in countries like Korea, Japan, China, you mentioned you're in Southeast Asia, they desire American brands, but we'll have to figure out, in a way that fits our brand, because we don't want to just ship our product over there and sell it at a premium just because we're an American brand. I know that's a lot of, what a lot of other mattress companies are doing. They'll license out their brand name and sell it for a markup out there. And also just, I'm Korean. I grew up in South Korea, during my childhood. I understand there's, cultural implications on what kind of sleeping surface. And you mentioned, for example, in Korea, the apartments are, very small. Real estate is very expensive. Minimalism, is a thing out there. I understand the same thing applies, in Japan. When we do go overseas, we'll have to, match that market where we bring over the brand ethos, but figure out what are the right policies, what's the right type of product for that market, so that we can, truly be a grounded brand for that market, not just an American gimmick that's crossing, the oceans to set up shop there.
No venture capital yet?
Not yet. We've had discussions. We're always open to it, but we won't take it unless, we see a clear need for it. And right now, we still see a clear path to bootstrapping until very, very large size.
I'm always envious of those super large private companies in America that have never taken, something like M&M Mars, it's still owned by a family, I always think that's so cool. The companies that were able to get to be massive and they never took anyone's money. So I wish you the best and tried to stay on that course, because I think that'd be really fun in the long run.
Thank you. Yeah, we hope the same.
Where can we send everybody, guys? Where's the best place we can go we can send people to check you out, to buy a mattress?
Our website is very simple, www.tn.com. Yeah, that's, like I said, that's our main place of business. We're also on Amazon if you want to read our reviews. Yeah, our website has, for example, our truth page has been, just a big attraction where people will come to learn about, the mattress industry, how it's worked. So we do a lot of just educating to people, whether they buy from us or not. They can learn about the markups and just the gimmicks, what to look out for when they go shopping for a mattress.
Hold on, you said TNTomNancy.com?
Exactly, yep.
That's right.
Okay, so you're not going to reveal how much you had to pay for that domain?
I would say it's the largest check I've ever written. But yeah, it was, we won't be disclosing the full price.
Okay, guys.
Thank you so much, Michael.
I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash or just trying to make a lot of money, Trend following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.